Welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. While many companies are taking a closer look at diversity efforts, Lululemon's founder has a much different perspective. Chip Wilson, who stepped down 10 years ago, says he believes the company is trying to cater to everyone. He says you should be clear that you don't want certain customers. Wow. Wilson is not the only businessman who's being vocal about these beliefs and talking about diversity, inclusion, many of the programs that have now been banned in various states and around the country. My next guest explains why. Dr. Von Biedenfeld, we knew when we saw action taken in Florida, Texas, when it came to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and of course, nationwide affirmative action, we knew private businesses would soon start moving that way. And now we're hearing from some very high-profile prominent business owners like Elon Musk, Bill Ackman, also the founder of Lululemon, Chip Wilson, all criticizing DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what will we see? What will the corporate picture look like when it comes to employees down the road if all business owners and all companies start moving in a direction where diversity is not even a concern of theirs?
The big challenge is, as you mentioned, when the federal government and state governments say, you know, we're really not going to enforce this standard, private sector says, well, we're trying to maximize profits. What aspects of our business can we cut? Whether it's the, six-figure jobs as a DEI officer, or even policies and trainings that you have to take time out of work productivity to deliver. So I think one of the challenges is, as companies try to find workarounds, they're going to try to figure out new ways to squeeze employees. And that includes being able to pick hires that they like. And many times that doesn't necessarily have to do exclusively with quantitative qualifications. And they'll also want to look at ways that they can come around and say, you know what, we don't like this person. We want to limit their ability to have recourse. And if we can fire them and not be sued for any sort of EEOC protected class reason, all the better. The challenge is the EEOC still exists. We still have those protected classes. And so even if we move away from efforts to sort of, especially with equity, we understand these ideas when we look at historic redlining and educational access, and you say, well, we're not really giving anybody a leg up. We're just trying to create equal opportunities, not full equality. We're going to see a lot of companies saying, this person went to my school, they look like me, and so we'll have a lot more of that homogeneity.
And what does that mean for those who may already be in the workforce and may be hired because of diversity? Do you see those people slowly moved out, even if they're not causing trouble, even if they're doing a good job? Do you see people moving them out to bring friends in that look more like them?
A more realistic challenge is going to be the lack of promotional opportunities and pay raises, and the lack of recourse when that occurs. Because if you don't have a concerted effort and culture that says, we want to have different opinions, we want to have different backgrounds influencing our market, and there's no incentive in the market to say externally or immediately, hey, we want these opinions to be reflected, that's going to create opportunities for people to say at senior management, here's my buddy, here's my family member. We know nepotism exists even despite various policies and laws against it. And so that's going to create more challenges for people to stay in the workforce and be promoted. I don't think it's necessarily going to see people getting fired as long as they're doing their jobs, but it definitely can impact morale when you see other people being promoted, and based on a quantitative metric, you're saying, wait a second, I do just as well as this person, and the only reason I can think of that they're getting a pay raise or a promotion to be closer to the boss's office or move up to that C-suite is they just fit in better because of cultural, socioeconomic, or other factors that I didn't have the opportunity to have simply by virtue of my age, gender, or other aspects of ethnicity.
When you have businessmen like Elon Musk saying, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a form of discrimination, a form of racism, how does that really hurt the movement as well when he says you are discriminating because you're bringing in someone specifically because they may be a black person, a brown person, what have you?
That definitely goes back to morale, because the concern is that highly qualified, highly educated, highly skilled employees of color or women are going to be perceived of as diversity hires, even if they were hired solely based on their qualifications. And when you have people who are considered thought leaders saying these sorts of things, it really reinforces ideas that are sort of at the fringes of society. So then people who otherwise would not be considered qualified to make these comments can point to someone who is considered credible, like Elon Musk or like these larger companies, and say, hey, see, my idea isn't that crazy. Or see, my idea doesn't necessarily belong in 1939. It's just as relevant today in 2023, 2024.